What is up, Buckeye Nation? Floco here, Ohio State football with Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube. Guys, thanks for joining us again. We have a great friend of the program and Dylan Freeman, insider, a Buckeye insider and a scout. Very proud to have him on the show. Very good friend. Dylan, how you doing, man?
It's been good. Everything's going well. It's been a long time since I've been on here, Corey.
Well, we haven't had anything to talk about in like 8 months. So what are you going to do, right? But we got a game coming up soon, Indiana, and it's only 9 days away. 9 days till Buckeye football. We are in the single digits, Dylan. Are you kidding me?
Doesn't feel real yet.
I know. When will it feel real for you?
Probably after the first game of not us, but just in
I was about to say, really?
No, yeah, not our game, just the first game in general. Kind of get it flowing.
Gotcha. 0 week.
Yeah, week 0, and kind of once I see the football kick off, like that, kind of get real.
After the Indiana game, okay, now it feels real. What? 1 game down, now it feels real. Oh boy. Okay, so you know what I like to do, Dylan? Is like I'm trying to make this a new tradition again. What player you associate with the number 9? Who was your favorite Buckeye to wear number 9?
I think the easy answer probably going to be like David Boston. Most forgotten wide receiver, how good he was. But I mean, the most important one since I've been really watching is Devin Smith. We wouldn't win that year with the title without him. He just because he didn't pan out in the NFL. He had
like 8 knee surgeries. I mean, that's going to hamper your ability.
Yeah, and so I mean, we wouldn't have won that. I mean, he stretched out the defense and opened things up for Zeke and made it a heck of a lot easier for Zeke to run the ball. And Cardell, when he could take the top off the defense on every single play.
I'll tell you, there might not be a better deep threat receiver in not just Buckeye history, college football history. It was pretty insane how reliable he was on the deep ball. Did okay in the NFL when his knee was okay. But I think it was 3 times he hurt that ACL. It's like, okay, that's enough. You can't do it anymore. God bless Devin. Yeah, we don't win a title without him. That's a fact. It's an absolute fact. I agree with that pick. My favorite number 9 is David Boston, only because I was 15 years old. I was impressionable. That's when I was growing up watching the Buckeyes. But I'm not knocking Devin Smith at all. Devin Smith is an absolute Buckeye legend in my mind. Not talked about enough. So we'll go with I'm good with that one. Comment below, guys, if you're watching, who's your favorite number 9? There's not that many to pick from. I'm going to be honest with you. Dylan and I were talking about it before the show. It's like, yikes. Not exactly the number 7 of Buckeye, where you could pick 38 people. It's kind of ridiculous. And when we get to number 7, special RIP to Dwayne Haskins if we don't do a show that day, because I'll tell you one thing, the more and more that's coming out about that story is getting really ridiculous and freaky, and it's almost like he was murdered rather than accidental death. And Dwayne is an absolute Buckeye legend. It's terrible.
Arguably the best quarterback in Ohio State history.
In my mind, he is. I love Justin Fields. I think C.J. Stroud's extremely talented. Troy Smith was great. To me, Dwayne's the best quarterback in Ohio State history.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's outstanding. So, all right, Dylan, we're getting to camp updates. I need them to pick your brain about what's going on at camp. See, I don't have the inside track like you do, so I got to go to the experts here, like Dylan Freeman, and see what's going on. And I'm going to ask the questions of the people, whoever watches this show podcast. So, what is the biggest non-quarterback story of the camp? Because that's the quarterback stuff has been dominating. And don't worry, guys, we will get to the quarterback stuff. But any other stuff? What's going on with the rest of the team?
I think that fighting for that 3rd spot, safety, is probably the biggest one right now. Jahad Carter looked like he had it. He was hurt all spring when he came in. Didn't really practice. And, I mean, it took him till just now to lose his black stripe. I think he's the most talented, but that's going to be a position battle that I don't think it's going to be just done from game 1. I think they're going to play and rotate their safeties. And so I think that he's going to have his hands full. And, I mean, Lake Hartford's really stepping up. And, I mean, Josh Proctor, he is kind of what he is at this point. But, I mean, there's a lot of good things that he can do. That it doesn't have to be an every down safety for him to be effective. You can send him on blitzes, play him close to the line of scrimmage. So there's a lot of things. And then at the same time, we're going to be playing, as far as safety goes, I mean, rotating Styles and Cam Martinez. So I think safeties and just in general, safeties is a pretty big deal. what's going on right now and how it could impact our season.
Yeah, and people obviously, most people I think know that Jim Knowles' system is very heavily dependent upon safety play, and so I honestly, Dylan, to add on to that, wouldn't you say that like in just a year's time, Eliano, Tim Walton, and Jim Knowles have done a great job of just kind of turning that safety room around. I mean, there's a lot now. There's a ton of talent at safety. It seems like. I mean, there's actual NFL. Shahad Carter. I don't know if Igbenison's going to be a safety or not. I just don't know where he's going right now. But he's NFL talent, obviously. And Sonny Styles is a first-round draft pick. I mean, probably.
Carter is going to get drafted. Styles is going to get drafted. And then the cornerbacks. But, I mean, that's pretty good. Ransom. I mean, Ransom's going to – I think he's going to have a –
He's going to get drafted.
Ransom's going to get drafted probably the 3rd or 4th round.
Yep.
I mean, you have – that's a lot of NFL talent. Maybe not the high end, like elite like we've had.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, other than Styles, who I think can do that. But in general, I mean, that's a lot of 3rd round draft picks, which is, I mean, that's how you win national championships. Is a lot of that talent right there.
I agree.
Obviously, it helps to have Marshawn Lattimore's and Gary and Conley's.
Yep.
But I mean, just a step below them with Burke and Hancock and Igmanosa, I think that's not too bad of a substitute.
I think they've done an excellent job replenishing the talent in that room. I mean, they came in, the cupboard was kind of bare. A lot of young, talented guys, but not guys that had a ton of experience, except for Cam Brown. And he, I'm not knocking Cam Brown, but he wasn't going to be lighting up the draft boards, obviously. I like what we have there, and say it. Okay, real quick, and we'll move on to the next question. But who's that? Who do you think the starting 3 safeties? Styles is already locked in on one, obviously. And who's the other 2 right now?
Ransom and Carter. I mean, I think that's what it's going to be. But I mean,
who's Carter competing with? Did Jim Knowles say?
Hartford and Proctor.
That's right. Okay. In Hartford, gosh, dude, I remember when he committed, played in the Army or U.S. Army game. Mm-hmm. I just tweeted out July 30th. Like, dude, don't forget Malik Hartford's a 96 rating. He's a serious player, and he's going to be a great player at Ohio State.
He is. I think it's a good competition. I think he has a lead on that one, but we're going to be doing a lot of packages based on specific game plans. You know what I mean? Yep. So, like, I think they're all going to play. We've been harping on not having enough rotation, and then at times we were harping on playing too much, like our defensive line. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a tough balance. But, I mean, when you have this many guys, which I don't think there's a huge drop-off, and Proctor coming in for 10 snaps a game, you know what I mean? Like Proctor coming in, Ari Hartford playing 2 or 3. Like, so I don't think it's as big of a drop off as in years past, where you only want to play a few guys. Last year, they didn't have faith in a lot of the players in the secondary. I mean, you saw Proctor.
Can we blame them?
No, I mean, Hickman. I mean, Hickman's a great talent. Like, could be a very good player, and we were starting to see flashes of that in the NFL. We saw flashes for the first 7 weeks of last year. But we didn't have anyone behind him that we felt comfortable with. And so we had to stick with him, and same with Ransom when he was struggling for a couple weeks.
And Hickman was kind of out of position last year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. They kind of did it opposite what him and Ransom should have been, in my opinion. But I mean, they're all very versatile as far as what they can do in their roles. So being versatile allows you to kind of mix and match. However, sometimes you do get out of position. As we saw, like in that touchdown that Ransom gave up, you know what I mean? That he's on a slot receiver. That happens when you.
That's just a mismatch.
Yep. Yeah, and if we would have had, say, Cam Martinez in, you know what I mean, or a nickel cornerback, like that's just one of the things that you kind of have to live with our scheme, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. So safety play, biggest non-QB story of who there's going to 3 safeties and how they're going to rotate. Let's go with the biggest position concern. I've already expressed mine on the podcast, so Dylan, you take it, buddy.
I mean, offensive line in general.
There you go. Yep.
I mean, like, I'm more worried about center, to be honest, than I am tackle. And it's not because I don't think Hinzman's good. Like, it's a new position. Yeah. He's really young, and it takes these guys 2 to 3 years to get like fully developed physically. You know what I mean? And
to kind of completely alter their body from just being a fat high school kid to being like a Greek god in college, basically.
Was it Fry that was saying year 1, you come in, learn this scheme. Year 2, you learn your body. And year 3, you start learning how to play. So
we don't do that anymore.
No. but that's the thing. Like it's tough, and I think he's going to be very good, and probably middle of the season, middle and end of the season. But I think that that's the apex of the offense, and I think that he's going to have some bumps and bruises, and they're going to throw. And I know Indiana's going to double A gap blitz and bring those two linebackers right up the middle at him to confuse them. You know what I mean?
So it makes sense. You got to target the young guy, obviously. That makes sense.
And so that's my opinion. My biggest concern is that, and then obviously Josh Simmons at left tackle.
Yeah, from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong. His pass blocking is okay, but his run blocking needs a lot of work.
Yeah, he's never really had someone teaching him the game.
So Justin Fry, and Fry's a good coach. I think we can all agree with that. And we have faith that Fry will put the best product he can. I think he came into a situation where it was top heavy and, not senior laden, but, Jones and Johnson were on their way out. Obviously, he only got a year with them. I didn't expect Whippler to go that right away, but Whippler looks like he might have made a decent decision. He seems to be sticking with the Browns. That being said, I still wish he'd come back, if selfishly. I agree with you. The offensive line, 3 key positions. And center, here's another problem with center, is that we have a new quarterback coming in. If we had CJ again, I'd say it's still a problem, but not as big of a problem as it is with a new starting quarterback. So
the only good thing is he has Jackson and Jones beside him.
That you're right. Thank God for the 2 veterans there. And from everything we read, Jackson and Jones have been the rock of that offensive line so far. They've been really good, right?
I'm not concerned really about Fryar at all. I think he's
the one that does concern me.
I think he's going to be 3rd team All Big Ten. You know what I mean? Something like that.
That's fine. You can do okay with that.
I think he's going to be a good player for us.
I'm glad they moved him because to me in the spring game, granted, look, our defensive line's pretty sick, but left tackle, he scared me. Like, oh my gosh, he's a turnstile over there. But right tackle seems more suitable for him. I'll give him that. He's been waiting for a while to play. He's been flashing since Stud's been here as offensive line coach. We've heard Josh Fryar's name year in and year out as a guy who watch for him. He looks pretty good. What happened to Zen Milkowski and George Fitzpatrick? We heard their names early on in the spring, just haven't heard them at all lately.
Yeah, they gave Zen every opportunity to win the job. They pretty much said it's your job as long as you don't just not show up as far as doing the work. And it's not even just about the work ethic because that's fine. It was just about executing. They weren't grasping it. And other guys, Josh Simmons, being only here for a short amount of time, he came in and really took the bull by the horns and exceeded everyone's expectations. Everyone thought that he could play, and they thought that he had a good chance to be the right tackle. And then they started working him out, and they saw that they wouldn't have moved Josh Fryar over there if they didn't feel decent about Josh Simmons.
Makes sense. Well, that's a good thing then, isn't it?
No, that is. That's why I think that his upside's really high. He was a big time recruit out of high school. He just wanted to stay close to home. So people didn't really see that. And then they saw his redshirt freshman year at San Diego State, which starting as a redshirt freshman, no matter what conference you're in, that's pretty good. And especially during COVID time, you know what I mean?
So he's got a few years of eligibility left too.
Yeah, I think he'll have played this year and probably 1 more year and for sure. And then I think there's a chance 2 if he consistently plays. I think that if we have someone come back or we say Luke Montgomery or someone steps up or we bring in a left tackle, slide him back to right tackle next year, which is where I think
it'd be nice to have an anchor there for about 2 to 3 years instead of just they're there, they're gone,
and that would, I think Fryar could also move inside as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a good thing about Fryar is he's very versatile. And I think that besides Jackson, I think he's our best lineman.
No kidding.
Because he's able to do everything.
Wow. That's bold words by Dylan, but I love it. I respect it. Let's move on to the next one. Quiet story that no one's talking about. We kind of said safety falls in this category a little bit, but what would you say another story that like nobody's really talking about, but it's actually bigger than people think?
Tight end depth.
Interesting.
I think
so. Obviously, Stover's a starter, but what goes on after that?
So, one of the things is they were charting, and Keenan Bailey was talking about Stover's usage. He played a ridiculous amount of percentage of snaps.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think it was 90% of the snaps in the game that he played. And like, I think it's like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but a very high amount was also blocking. I mean, that's a lot to do on
Stover's a warrior. Let's be real.
Yeah, he is, but they don't want him to have to do that. They want to be able to spell him in 12 personnel. And as you know, I watched it from days. He wants to run 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, like a good amount of time. I know.
Is that part of the reason why we've been more pass offense? I mean, part of it. I get it. We had CJ and those receivers. That's a big part of it too. But in Ryan Day's pass happy. But would you say we can't really have the depth to go 12 personnel? Is part of why we haven't seen the 2019 offense?
Who would have been tight end last year? That second.
I agree.
End.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, does that contribute to it? Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge factor. We didn't have.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Stover wasn't a tight end 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean our tight end depth's been pretty bad actually. So.
Yeah, we've always had like Rucker. We had one starter, and then last year we had one starter. But I think
we had Ruckert and Farrell for a couple of years, and both of them were NFL players.
Yeah, and so like that, it's a huge part of Day's offense is running that, and that allows you to run so many different types of run formations. You know what I mean? And run actions and blocking schemes.
So who would be in the 12 this year? Do you think it'd be G. Scott?
I think right now Royer, he's back and healthy. Yeah, he's healthy. He had a very tragic family issue, you know what I mean, last year, and I think that he's slowly. I mean, you're never really over it, you know what I mean, but you're slowly. I think he's trying to certainly lean on his brothers and that part of their brotherhood, and I think that Royer is going to be a big part of the offense. Maybe not like pass catching wise, but I think he'll play more than fans are expecting him.
Good. And he's a good player. Put him on the field. You know.
Yeah, and he's a lot better of a pass catcher, more natural of a pass catcher than Cade.
Yeah, Cade's still pretty good though. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but it's Royer came in out of high school as pretty much a big wide receiver like Rucker. You know, not comparing them because I think Rucker's very good, but Royer, and then I think that G. Scott will play some too.
More of a pass catching role.
Yeah, he offers something different that both those don't offer.
He's like a big H-back, you know, when you think about it. So what about Sam Hart and Jelani Thurman?
Thurman, they kind of pumped the brakes on Thurman the last few weeks, and when they're talking about him, and because everyone was kind of really hyped after him.
He's going to be good, though. We could be sure.
He's going to be very good. Yeah. He doesn't know how to block yet. He never had to.
That's okay. No, he's still skinny, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah, he's 250 pounds, but he's 6'5" and skinny. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't.
Needs to be 265 probably.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be like you said, a very good player. But I don't think that he's ready. I'm not saying that we can't utilize him against Youngstown State in the third quarter. You know what I mean? Something like that.
That'd be fun.
I don't think he'll have a role this season, other than just kind of a few reps here and there. And
so Sam Hart will be that fourth guy type.
I haven't really heard anything about him.
Wow.
One way or another.
It's just not going to happen. Yeah.
But now we need depth right now.
Yep. I think Coach Key will probably recruit the tight end position a little bit better than what Kevin Wilson even did. I love Kevin Wilson. I'm not knocking him, but our tight end depth became a serious. I mean, Bennett Christian who's suspended for the year. Obviously, he'll factor into next year because he's the sad part is he's the prototypical for that 12 personnel. That's what's sad about losing him.
Yeah, you need but I mean, as you see it, we brought in Witten.
Demario Witten.
Witten,
nice player.
Yeah, like what is he? You don't really know, but I mean, he's going to start off in the tight end room, but he's not really. And I think that's where someone like Keenan Bailey, who has often like wide receiver experience, and then belongs to more of the traditional tight end. So I think that going forward, we're going to be having a few more athletes that we're putting in there, as well as one traditional tight end. So I think that the tight end depth is interesting, and I think that slowly it's going to become a strength that we're going to actually lean on 12 personnel.
So you're seeing a shift there slowly. Okay.
Yeah, the types of athletes that they're recruiting, I think it's going to be different.
Yeah, and I loved it when Kevin Wilson went to be the head coach of Tulsa. I mean, immediately I know you're the same way, by the way. Dylan was saying the same thing. Goes Coach Key has to be the tight end coach. That's where you put him because you can't lose him. He's too valuable. He's a great coach. Let him get his feet wet in the tight end room, and see what he can do there. And then if Hartline ever leaves, God forbid, I'm knocking on wood. I don't want that to happen. Gosh, I don't want that to happen. But Coach Key would make the most sense to replace Hartline, obviously.
And you have for run blocking, you have a little bit of Fry that can lean into that now. It just being the O-line coach instead of Wilson having to do O-line tight ends. You know what I mean? So like he has a little more help that he can lean on. while he's still learning that position and learn how to coach that.
Exactly. Fry's going to be very key this year. He's going to have to be the MVP of the coaching staff this year. All right, last question. We're done. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. Who will be the starting quarterback and why?
I still think McCord. Against
How
everything.
dare you? No, I was kidding.
And I really do think that he had a huge lead all spring. Like he won most days. He won even early in the summer. He was winning most days. On top of his big lead already, and then Devin Brown. I think I'm not team one. I see the drama. I'm not team one way or another. I want the best quarterback to play.
Of course.
And early on, it was McCord, and Devin Brown is getting better and better, which is a good thing for us.
I think the competition is what makes them better.
Yeah, and Devin Brown, when you're not going to be getting the job, it's free money.
Yeah,
and
you're playing with house money.
Yeah, that house money gets you caught up though, and that's kind of where we're at.
Make some big plays in practice, and there you go.
Yeah, and McCord, what's human nature when you have a big lead?
You play. You kind of you like in the 12th round of a boxing match. You just kind of dance around and just jab, and if you got the lead,
yeah, and so that's kind of where we've been at. Is McCord's been playing it pretty safe, and Devin Brown is kind of going above and beyond. And we'll see if we'll see if Day wants to live with that, which it's tough. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be able to push the ball down more down the field. And it's not even just he has a bigger arm, because I think McCord has a bigger arm. I think it's just more of willingness.
Yeah.
To take that risk.
I said that on the podcast this morning. I was trying to make a point that which style do you want to go with? The guy who McCord is more prototypical, likes to check down, play it safe a little bit, whereas Devin Brown maybe will challenge the defense a little bit more. But the problem is that gets you in trouble. I said this in the group chat, and I still stand by it. If the defense were going to be bad this year, I'd say you go Kyle McCord all day, because you need to keep the ball in the hands of the offense. Because I've seen Packers. I always bring up the Packers, but with Brett Favre when he had a terrible defense and he's just turning the ball over left and right, and it's like, well, we're down by 25 all of a sudden.
Yeah, you're gashed pretty quickly.
Exactly. But if you have a Aaron Rodgers with a bad defense, all of a sudden you're still in the game because he's not screwing you over. So Devin Brown, if he's turning the ball a little bit over, he's challenging. He just can't help himself. He's got to challenge the secondary. I think when you have a great defense, you can get away with that a little bit. But if defense is going to be better this year, I think we can all agree on that. But
I think it's a top 12, top 10 defense.
I think it's going to be technically elite if you by today's standards. But couple that with a Kyle McCord ball control quarterback who can push the ball down. We're not pretending he can't do it. We know he can take the ball down the field. It's just like you said, his mentality might be make the smart play, lay up instead of go for the par four.
My thing is, and I said this, we have the best receivers in the country. Get them the ball consistently.
You can just throw it to Harrison wherever he's at. He's just in the vicinity of it.
It doesn't have to be a 45-yard seam pass, you know what I mean, Harrison. It can be a 12-yard out, and if you do 2 or 3 of those, you know what I mean, and he breaks the tackle, that's the same as. And then my thing is kind of, you're talking about turnovers. I get it because our defense is going to be very good this year and almost elite, but you don't want to take away snaps from our offense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You
with
want
all
to
the
give our
playmakers we have.
and, I mean, and I think our
by the way, 5 running backs that are all good.
Trey Henderson, they were saying that's something different about him the last few weeks. That's really
a little extra bonus for you guys. Yeah.
And then one player that they're actually really trying to find ways to use right now is Chip. They're really liking him.
I liked him last year. I was so ticked off. I mean, you said he was injured. I didn't know he was injured, but when we went to the Michigan game, when he played really well, he was like one of our only freaking positives. And the Georgia game, I'm like, why are we not using Chip? We're like limping Mayan Williams out there, and I love Mayan Williams. I love Chop. He's a great player, and I love his attitude. But he was very clearly injured.
He couldn't even walk.
I know. He was getting up, and he was like he's 40 years old, and he just got the crap beat out of him. I'm like, man, Mayan's hurt. Trey is obviously not playing. I was like, where's Chip at? And then you came to me, so he's actually been injured. I'm like, of course, everybody's getting injured. This is ridiculous. Dallin Hayden and Xavier Johnson filled in admirably. And by the way, real quick, let's end on this. Xavier Johnson, captain, now the Blocko. How awesome is that story?
I mean, even when we recruited him in high school and we saw that he chose there, I mean, he had offers from Iowa State, Bowling Green, you know what I mean?
He
Like,
could have gone full Scully right away to these schools. Yep.
to a Big 12 school, which is, I mean, that's
A
impressive.
P5 school. Yep.
And then we moved him around. We put him at DB at first, and we put him at running back, and then wide receivers. So, I mean, that's the epitome
Did it
of
without
team
complaining.
player.
Yep.
And that's how you win with those guys. It might not always be, I mean, Tracy Sprinkle, remember him? Like someone like that. Like he was a huge part of our huge run when our defense line was elite. I mean, even though that he didn't have the most talent of everyone, he worked his butt off, and we had a couple of those guys that
Devon Hamilton, another example. Like that guy, when he got recruited, nobody like, oh, he's just a throw-in, whatever. He's a 3-star. And then the first sign of spring camp when he was there, he's immovable. Nobody can move this guy.
So. It helps when you put on 25 pounds of pure muscle and
exactly. Then he was. You could argue he was the second best defensive lineman to Chase Young in 2019. I mean, I don't know who else was better. I love it. Great story. Dylan, we appreciate you coming on, brother. We got to have you on a lot more during the season, obviously, because there's going to be a lot to talk about.
As long as Johnny's not on, I'm good.
I totally understand. I'll sign that in the contract. We'll be good, and Johnny will stay away from you. And the restraining order is still good, by the way. But tell them where they can find you.
At Dylan Freeman VP on Twitter.
Or X or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? Elon Musk is screwing things up there. Anyway, God bless you guys. Dylan, appreciate you coming on. I hope you enjoyed those camp updates. 5650 subs by Indiana. We're trying for that goal. We know you can help us. Like the video. Comment on what you think about these camp updates, what you want to see, what you're afraid of, what you're not afraid of, what you think is going to be great, what do you think about our defense, who's going to be starting QB, everything. Comment everything. Share the video if you like what you see, and subscribe if you also like what you see. Appreciate you guys. As always, goodbye. God bless. And, of course, Dylan.
Go Bucks.
Go. Oh, man, come on. Go Bucks. You can do that.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.